Actually, I need to make a little more coffee. And I'm just not stopping this because it ends up being a bunch of different things to keep track of if I separate all the clips. So I guess I will continue talking while I do this. Yeah, so I was at this courthouse in Tacoma trying to figure out how to file asking for instructions on how to file a restraining order against somebody for personal safety because I was assaulted with military technology. And you know what's even stranger is that since that man that I was filing the thing against was connected to the United States military and to England, it's a little bit strange that then the FBI in Seattle was also involved in trying to, I think trying to have me admitted later. I was tortured later after I was trying to do that, and blocked from the Seattle FBI offices. And it's just, everything is pointing to Middleton as an employee of the United States. I don't know how England can even tolerate that. I mean, what do? They just like have a bunch of doubles there? I mean, I seriously feel like and you know the weird thing is that I've had people make weird references. I can look back or think back on my childhood. And it's strange because I was always oblivious to everything. I mean, really, truly, I was. And even as a young adult, and all the way up until I feel like until I was 30 or so, I didn't have a clue about anything. And I didn't understand politics. I didn't know why people were making certain references to things. But if I think back, even on my childhood, to certain different. I mean, I have a pretty good memory. It's off and on, back in the childhood days, but I remember different things that kids would say to me. And when I now think about Middleton and how long they have been trying to get to where they are now, it really makes a lot of really strange sense, because I've had people bringing Middleton up through their kids since I was a kid. I mean, like kids coming up to me and making comments that I think their parents told their child to make. And since I had no idea what they were talking about, it never bothered me. I never felt riled or offended because I was just always clueless. I didn't know that they were trying to upset me or try to rub something in my face. I just didn't know what, I remember certain things that kids would say to me because I didn't know why they were saying them. And now fast forward through other events and looking back, it makes just a little more sense to me. And anyway, so I was in Tacoma, and I had just been in the courthouse. And after I was at that Tacoma courthouse, I needed to get something to eat. So I went to the McDonald's. And it was basically right next door to or a few blocks away maybe from the courthouse. And I didn't have a lot of money, so I just bought something really quick. And then when I was sitting there at the McDonald's, this man started talking to me. And actually, what was I had something. Oh, I had a breakfast English McMuffin, something or other, with cheese. I had some kind of a breakfast item, so it was early in the morning. And then I was standing outside and possibly trying to use a payphone. I don't totally remember. Maybe I asked to use his phone, but I don't know that he did let me use his phone. I don't know that that's how I met him. Oh, I asked directions, but he was standing there. He was watching me, and I think that's why I knew that he was watching me, and for some sort of reason. It was more than just a passing interest. So he was really watching me. And since he was watching me, he had caught my attention, and that's why I decided to approach him out of all of the people at that time, you know, because he had been watching me. So he was making eye contact with me by staring at me, and I just kind of decided to go over there and say hello. And he was an Asian man, and he was I believe he's Japanese. He had a dragon. He could have been Chinese, but he kind of looked more Japanese to me. And I thought that he maybe said he was Japanese. When I have said before that the Asian men, I think when I try to describe what nationality somebody who's Asian is, you know, you can't always tell. It's just like American people, or white people, I mean. But if you are around people enough, you can sort of pick out some of the traits in general. I mean, there are people from Germany who look like they're more French. And there are people who are in the United States who maybe look more German than even some of the Germans look. And you can't always judge things by that, but there are some traits in common that sometimes you can identify with a certain race or group of people. And I used to think, I don't think it was being ignorant, but I used to think that, you know, black people all sort of looked alike, or Asian people all kind of looked alike, just because they look different from white people. And what I mean by that is that, well, if you live in Africa, though, if you live in Africa for a while, you start to see that the Ethiopians have completely different features in general. Not all of them, but a typical Ethiopian looks much, much different from somebody from maybe Morocco or somebody from Kenya. You have people throughout Africa who are really different looking from each other, even though they all share something in common with having darker skin. Their features can be really, you can sometimes identify somebody just by their features. And the same thing with Asians, because I worked with people from around the world for such a long time. With Asians, at first I didn't know, I wouldn't have been able to tell if somebody was Korean or looked more Korean or Chinese or Japanese. But after a little while, I was better at identifying whether someone looked like they were very, like, kind of traditionally Japanese looking in features, or Chinese or Korean, that kind of thing. You know, Thai, whatever. And that man that I have mentioned who had the tattoo sleeve, who was really close to me and following alongside me when I was in Seattle this one time, he was definitely Japanese. He did not look Chinese at all. And and it was interesting because while I was still with Alvaro, this woman who had a Japanese boyfriend and everything, she wanted to get close to me and she went out with me. She sought me out at this coffee shop I was going to when he was still there. And she wanted to talk to me, and then she later told me she had a Japanese boyfriend in Seattle. And I kind of wondered, and then she gave me a videotape that I think she knew was going to freak Alvaro out. And I just thought it was strange that she would seek me out and have a Japanese boyfriend when I had been harassed one time by this Japanese guy with a big tattoo sleeve while driving through Seattle. You know, I don't have anything against Japanese in general, but there was some kind of a group that was attached to somebody, and Judge Nakata did not do me any favors. She's Japanese American. Also, so this man that I met watching me standing at the McDonald's when I left the courthouse. I remember he was wearing a solid white shirt. He was wearing the same kind of long-sleeved solid white shirt that I remember Armando Garza wearing when he left my house, when I thought, how did he change out of the shirt that he was wearing into this white shirt? And this man, just kind of like a Oxford type of a shirt, basic plain white shirt, long sleeve shirt thing. And I think it was long sleeve. I know it was white. Maybe it was short sleeve, but I know he was wearing a white shirt. And he looked Japanese. I don't remember I think I blogged about what he told me he was, what his nationality was. I think that he possibly even told me he was Japanese. But then he said something about he had a dragon tattoo, and I asked him what it meant or what it was for, and he said he tried to sort of put it off to the side, saying that some people associated dragons with gangs, and that wasn't the meaning that it had for him. Or maybe he said that he used to be in a gang and he wasn't anymore. Something like that. Or maybe he just said I found out it was about gangs later. So I need to really clarify that the man who was Japanese driving in his car with the whole sleeve of colored tattoos was a completely different man than the one who I met in Tacoma. Because the man that I met, the Asian man I met in Tacoma, had a dragon tattoo, and it was black ink. It was all black ink, if I remember correctly. And it was a dragon. And that's all it was on one of his arms. And like I said, the other guy had a full sleeve of colored tattoos, and they looked very expensive. I mean, the guy's driving by me pretty fast. I could still tell it was good art. It was still good artwork. So I knew by the kind of artwork that I saw, even in that short moment, that money had gone into it. You can't get a sleeve like that without having some money to spend. And so this other guy, so I'm making that distinction clear, that was the Japanese man who was driving alongside my car in Seattle. And I had a car to drive. And the other guy from Tacoma who was watching me at the McDonald's, he had just a black ink dragon tattoo. Anyway, I thought that he seemed nice, and then he invited me to have Vietnamese food. The last time that I'd had Vietnamese food had been in Portland, Oregon, and I knew this one guy from church, and we all went out and we had pho, P-H-O, and it was like a bowl of pho. It was it's a traditional Vietnamese soup, has all kinds of things in it, and it was a very, 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 very good place in Portland, Oregon. It was out in the middle of nowhere. You really had to drive. It didn't look like much when you got out there too, because it wasn't the nicest area, but the food was amazing. And I think I need to open a window. Because there's something in my house that's causing kind of an allergic reaction. But